and shape reality.
Protecting this world. I can't do this.
Welcome to the Movie Summary channel. If you like the featured video, please watch it in the theaters near you, or buy or rent the original movie from the links provided in the description. Like and share the video as it will help us out, and comment on what movies you like to be featured next. Movie Summary does not condone piracy and follows and complies with the fair use law. Now, let's watch the featured video. Simply sit tight, relax, and enjoy the video. Be aware that there is heavy spoilers ahead. The movie begins with a sorcerer, later revealed to be Caecilius, tears some pages from a chained book in an old, seemingly Gothic library. His minions restrain the librarian/guardian with bands of energy. Caecilius uses two large knives to decapitate the man and escapes with the help of several followers. The owner of the book, the Ancient One, goes after them. As he flees, Caecilius bends, folds, and reshapes the streets and buildings of the city. Though she's a formidable magical fighter, the Ancient One is unable to pin down Caecilius and he escapes. In New York City, renowned surgeon Dr. Stephen Strange is cool and confident as he performs a delicate brain operation at Metro General Hospital. As he finishes, his ex-girlfriend, Dr. Christine Palmer, rushes in to show him an X-ray of a patient with a bullet in his brain. He immediately dismisses the case as hopeless, but with further prodding from Christine, he realizes that the patient is comatose because his medulla oblongata has been poisoned by trace elements in the bullet. Strange realizes he can save the man's life and goes to the ER surgery and quickly does a manual extraction with forceps, demonstrating his impressive hand control. The doctor who made the initial diagnosis, Nicholas West, is left humiliated by Strange's overwhelming ego. Later, Strange and Christine joke about their on-again, off-again relationship. She turns down his request to join him that evening. Strange dresses for the evening in his expensive condo, pausing to choose from a drawer full of high-end watches. Speeding out of his condo in his Lamborghini Huracan, Strange heads north. He calls an assistant to consider his next patients. He's in high demand, but he wants only difficult, interesting cases.
That does sound interesting.
Distracted and driving recklessly, he crashes and the car plunges into the river. As his car is wrecked, his hands slam into the dashboard. He is airlifted back to his hospital and Christine is there when he awakens, badly hurt. His hands have had to be rebuilt and are immobilized in a framework of pins and wires.
Did they do?
Recovering slowly after further surgeries, his hands remain stiff and shaky. He can no longer work as a neurosurgeon. Feeling sorry for himself, Strange breaks up with Christine.
Exactly the time not to stop.
There are other things that can give your life meaning.
This is the part where you leave.
Fine. Breaks my heart to see you this way.
He hears about a man called Jonathan Pangborn who, inexplicably, recovered from a half-body paralysis. Strange finds Pangborn playing basketball,
down, partial paralysis in both hands.
and the man tells him he found the cure in Camertage.
The place you're looking for is called Camartage. Good luck.
Strange travels Nepal and wanders the streets of Kathmandu. He is noticed and followed.
I don't have any money.
All right.
Another sorcerer, Karl Mordo, saves him from muggers and takes him to Camertage, where he meets the Ancient One. The Ancient One knows all about Strange and introduces him to an alternate reality where many hidden universes and dimensions can be harnessed for power and mystical guidance.
He looks all right to me. This material universe is all there is. What mysteries lie beyond mind and matter of an infinite number? Dark places.
Teach me.
He begins training,
Drawn from other dimensions of the multi shields and weapons.
and slowly learns to open gates to jump across the world. He learns the temple is part of a secret group saving the world from enemies in other dimensions and universes. While training, Mordo shows Strange a magic stick, a relic that can be used as a weapon, and says relics must choose their user. He explains that Caecilius, a former student of the Ancient One, has stolen a spell from a book and escaped with 3 zealots. There is worry he will decipher the spell and call in Dormammu from the Dark Dimension to take over the world. Strange is upset and says he hasn't come to join their group, only to cure his hands. Strange visits Cumberbatch's library, which is kept by one. Strange becomes a voracious student, borrowing and reading many books from the humorless one. When he asks about the book that Caecilius was after, Wand explains that it's reserved for use only by the Sorcerer Supreme, and it's the one that Caecilius stole pages from. When Strange masters creating portals, he steals more books from the library and learns about astral projection. One night when Wand appears to be out of the library, Strange learns how to use a time-shifting pendant, the Eye of Agamotto.
Open the Eye of Agamotto.
Which enables him to see the missing page from the book.
Eternal life.
Mordo and One tell him it is forbidden to use time spells as they can cause time loops that a wielder can be stuck in forever, and also let evil forces into their universe.
Well, heroes like the Avengers protect the father.
Wand explains there are 3 sanctums in London, New York, and Hong Kong, where the group watches out for the world. He also gives more of Dormammu's history, that he is a purely evil being bent on conquering all the known worlds, and that Earth has long been his ultimate target.
Into his dark dimension.
That name. I just read it in the...
Caecilius finally deciphers the stolen spell,
The one who betrays the world.
and his group attacks the London Sanctum, a plain building with a logo window. The backlash from the London Sanctum throws Strange through a door and into the New York Sanctum. The building is deserted as he wanders the floors looking at various artifacts. He notices a burgundy cloak in a glass case that moves as he looks at it. At the end of a corridor, he finds 3 glass doors that turn out to be gateways to other places. The destination is changed by turning a dial next to each door. Caecilius and his group next attack the New York Sanctum. Strange develops fighting skills on the fly. He gets rid of 2 zealots using the gateways. And the burgundy cloak, a relic which seems to have some intelligence and wraps itself around him. The cloak helps him subdue the 3rd zealot and restrain Caecilius in an antique binding rack. Strange and Caecilius have a talk about the Ancient One and immortality, in which Caecilius claims that the Ancient One has achieved her long life using powers from the Dark Dimension.
life everlasting.
Once Strange lets down his guard, the third zealot revives and stabs him. Strange manages to open a gate and stagger into a janitor's closet in Christine's hospital.
Palmer, where is she?
Sir, we need to get...
Where is she?
He finds her and barely manages to get on a table as Christine hooks him up to a heart monitor and performs an emergency pericardiocentesis to drain excess blood from around his heart. Meanwhile, Strange separates his astral body and continues to fight the zealot, finally killing him with the help of Christine, who shocks him with a defibrillator, killing the zealot. The zealot is invisible to Christine, but she can tell something is going on and she's very spooked. Sewn up and recovering, Strange tells Christine he must return and goes back through the gate. Caecilius has escaped and Mordo joins Strange in New York. The Ancient One also comes and suggests Strange take over the New York Sanctum. They are impressed the magical cape, known as the Cloak of Levitation, has chosen him. However, Strange is reluctant to take the position until they tell him more about Caecilius, and also about the Ancient One's use of dark magic to prolong her life.
She's not who you think she is.
Caecilius returns with more zealots, and Strange creates a mirror dimension to contain the fight,
Who's laughing now, asshole?
which spills out into the street. Caecilius uses his powers to shapeshift the city, as he did in the opening scene when he fought the Ancient One and disoriented Strange. The Ancient One returns to help.
It's true.
But she falls and is mortally wounded. Strange takes her to Christine's hospital, but it is too late. Strange follows the Ancient One's spirit in his astral form, and they talk overlooking New York City. She accepts this is her end and suggests Strange can take over. Back in the New York Sanctum, Strange and Mordo realize Hong Kong is next on Caecilius' list. They gate over, but the Hong Kong Sanctum has been overrun, and the destructive force is enveloping the city. One who is guarding it,
No one.
has been killed, and Dormammu's dark dimension is growing from the location of the Sanctum. Strange uses the Eye of Agamotto to start reversing the process, but Caecilius recovers and manages to stun Strange, stopping the process before it can complete. Strange thinks of something and flies off into the heart of the Dormammu's dark dimension.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Here, he confronts Dormammu and manages to create an infinite time loop. Dormammu kills Strange in various ways, but every time Strange dies, time is always reset to the start of the confrontation.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Dormammu is furious, but finally agrees to leave Earth alone in return for Strange stopping the time loop.
Never come back. Do it.
Back on the street, Strange sends Caecilius and his crew into the dark dimension just before it vanishes.
The warnings come after the spells.
Mordo is upset that Strange broke the rules in using the time pendant, and that the Ancient One used what he considers to be forbidden powers to prolong her life. Before she died, the Ancient One warned Strange that Mordo was very big on following the rules, both his weakness and his strength, and that Strange's flexibility would be an important factor when they worked together. But Mordo says there must be a reckoning, and he retires from the group and walks away. Strange takes over the New York Sanctum. He puts the Eye of Agamotto back in its guarded place at Camertage, where one tells him a little extra secret about the Eye, which is that it contains one of the 6 Infinity Stones. In a mid-credit scene, Strange decides to help Thor, who has brought his brother Loki to Earth to search for their father, Odin.
Allow me to help you.
In a post-credit scene, Mordo visits Pangborn and strips him of the magic he uses to walk. Pangborn collapses in a heap as Mordo coldly states that the problem is too many sorcerers on Earth. Then the movie ends.
And shape reality.
Protecting this world. I can't do this.
Thank you for watching our featured video here in Movie Summary. I hope you have enjoyed watching our videos. Please like and share this video on your social media, and subscribe to our channel to help us grow. Comment down below on what movies you like to be featured next, and click the notification bell so that you will be notified every time we post new videos. Bye for now, and see you in the next upload of our next videos.